Dance Arts of Columbia provides fitness fun for everyone from 3 years old to adults. Dance Arts is a good environment where the friendly staff makes you feel comfortable. Dance Art feels that dance is an art form that you can experience firsthand by learning tap, jazz, modern, musical theater, lyrical, and ballet. Dance Arts urges you to enjoy a sense of accomplishment while getting fit and having fun. For class information, call 875-1569. Dance Arts of Columbia, serving Columbia since 1979.
Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Monday, June the 22nd. It's good to have you with us today. And I've got one of my friends who's been on several times in the past. He is an educational psychologist. He's an adjunct professor of peace studies at MU and also a UFO amateur journalist. I'm talking about Bill Wickersham. Welcome back to Radio Friends, Bill. Good to have you here. We had quite a conversation before we started this program today about you. And I'm so interested in this topic. And I think a lot of people are interested in the topic of UFOs. The thing is, they just don't admit it. Many people won't admit it. Sure. But you have, how did you get started with the interest in this?
Well, originally, when I was in graduate school, a doctoral candidate by the name of Leo Sprinkle, who did his doctorate here in counseling psychology, had two experiences at Boulder as an undergraduate, and he became one of the foremost psychologists in the world, literally, who was listening to people who purportedly had some kind of UFO experience, either abduction or close encounter, that sort of thing.
Yeah. You were telling me before we started this session today that you've had a fair amount of response from Radio Friends.
Well, that's true, and right off, I really want to thank you for letting me do this. There are some folks who won't do that in the journalism field, but certainly you have. And just one example of many contacts that I've had. 2 weeks ago, I was contacted by Alejandro Rojas, who is one of the top UFO journalists in the world, who works for an outfit in Phoenix called Open Minds TV Corporation. He had seen some of our interviews that are online. I guess you call those podcasts.
Yeah, or vodcasts, the vodcast.
Right, and so he called me and said, would you do an interview with me? And we did a 40-minute interview in which we touched many of the topics that you and I, but especially the nuclear missile site and power plant kind of UFO
and then
experiences.
You're going to be speaking to the Historical Society?
Well, yes. In fact, I've had a nice invitation for the Audrain Historical Society, Paul Baum over there, who they have a big event it's in September. I don't know my exact date, but toward the end. And I'll be dealing with some of the history of UFOs, both internationally and in Missouri.
At the Audrain Historical Society?
Yes,
That's interesting.
Sure, well, there's an important history there,
in
my view.
Right. What do you want to touch on today?
Well, I really wanted to, as I say, thank you for doing that, and we might talk about some of the stuff that Alejandro and I did. If that, the main one really was we've talked a little about this once before, but not in depth. The 1984 Whiteman Air Force Base UFO Incursion. And at that time, and by the way, this did not come out fully until 2008. And the material that I will be telling you about here is on an interview which anybody can Google if they would like to. And it's called, let me just be sure I've got it.
Okay, this was a 1984 Whiteman Air Force Base.
Whiteman Air Force Base, that's right. And the actual DVD is Military UFO Witness Speaks Out. And this is an interview with a prominent TV anchor, Linda Moulton Howe, and he tells about an experience where he and his fellow airmen were at Whiteman Air Force Base in 1984, about 2:30 a.m. in the morning. They were near what are called the igloos. In those days, you had Minuteman missiles with hydrogen bombs that were aimed at Russia, but you also had spare parts and spare warheads in what were called igloos. So he and his partner were driving near the igloos. Their Jeep cut out on them, like often happens with UFOs. They look up. Here is a 50-foot diameter disc, which is only between, he says, 55 and 100 feet above the igloo, shining down a bluish red light and doing what might amount to a grid search. And so he goes over there, sticks his hand near that, a purple light comes on and burns his arm. And so they don't know what to do, and so his partner calls headquarters. Out comes the security team, and by the way, the UFO officer. Now what's interesting about that, the Air Force said after '69 they didn't deal with this. They brought out 2 trucks, gigantic camera that took pictures of this device, made he and his buddy move behind the igloo, told them to look down, don't you dare look up. And so then they, in those days, there were Harrier jets, Marine Harrier jets at Whiteman. And so those came out and tried to intercept the UFO. It went like that, clear out of sight. They chased it. They ran out of gas. They come back and land. The UFO comes back and starts its search again.
Okay, so this was 1984,
Right.
and you're saying it was not made public until what?
Actually, 2008.
2008. Well, how did it become public in 2008?
Well, Dale Hogan decided to speak out. He called, there's a UFO group called MUFON Northwest, in which he talked to them about it. Then he had this in-depth interview with Linda Moulton Howe in 2010. And the reason he hadn't said anything before was because he was threatened, I mean really threatened badly.
That he had to keep it quiet.
Well, let me read you.
Okay, we're just about out of time. Go ahead.
This is what he was told by his investigator.
Now, this is a quote from him.
This is a quote from him. Quote, Airman Hogan, bullets are cheap. People die all the time. They commit suicide on a regular basis. If you ever disclose what happened this night, you will not like the future. And family members die all the time, horrible deaths. Houses burn down, people die in car crashes all the time. So, for your family's sake, I would not disclose what happened tonight.
And he told this to the news person. What is the video that people can watch if they want to see it?
The video they can watch is Military UFO Witness Speaks Out.
Okay, you can Google that for more information. And Bill, we're out of time for today, but it's always interesting to visit with you and chat with you. Continue.
Well, I hope people will take a look at some of our stuff. We get counter arguments when people don't look at the data.
Okay.
And so this one is really quite solid.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you.
Bill Wickersham. Tomorrow, the Arts as Portal to Science Communication Camp. That kind of ties in there, doesn't it? This is MU. Our program directed by Travis McMillan, Reynolds Journalism Institute. Audio is Pat Akers from KBIA. Our floor director is Lowell Thomas. By the way, thank you, Pat, for audio. And our assistant producer and guest coordinator, Uncle James Mauser. Something you would like to hear or see, drop me an email, pepperp@missouri.edu. And if you want to watch this again, go to kbia.org, click on Radio Friends, and you can watch it or listen to it. Bye-bye.